What if I told you the next shocking move in Port Charles could send Lucas straight into the arms of the one man who just saved his life and expose a secret neither of them saw coming? Because that is exactly the kind of dangerous, unexpected twist I see building here. And I do not think this is just another random scare in the middle of all the Sidwell chaos. I think this plot has game changer written all over it. And the second that mysterious gunman comes into play, everything about Lucas and Joe could shift in a way nobody in Port Charles is ready for. Here is the situation, as I see it. Lucas is already standing too close to the fire. He has been pulled into a very messy, very volatile battle involving Sidwell. And once you get tangled up in something like that on General Hospital, you are never really safe again. The walls close in fast. The threats get sharper. And the people around you start realizing that this is not just gossip, not just tension, not just a passing scare. This is real danger. And then there is Joe. Now, I have to say this. Joe has been circling Lucas in a way that already felt important before the bullets started flying. I noticed it, and I think a lot of viewers did too. There was this low-key pull between them, this quiet friction, this sense that the writers were keeping them in each other's orbit for a reason. But hold on to your seats, because once Dante assigns Joe to protect Lucas, that is not just a routine police detail anymore. That is the kind of setup soap fans dream about. Because whenever two attractive characters are forced into close quarters under pressure, something always happens. And in this case, I think something big is about to happen. My thoughts? I do not believe the danger is going to stop at warning signs and uneasy looks. I think this is heading straight into a shocking ambush. A mysterious assassin is lurking in the shadows, and Lucas is the target. That alone is terrifying. But what makes this so much more explosive is that Joe may be the only one who spots the threat in time. I can absolutely see Joe moving on instinct, reacting in a split second, trying to stop the attack before Lucas gets hit. And that is where the whole plot turns brutally fast. Joe fires. The shot goes off. Chaos erupts. And in the middle of that instant of terror, the assassin's bullet doesn't go where it was meant to go. It veers. It shifts. It twists fate like a cruel little knife. And Joe takes the hit instead. Now, if you ask me, that is the kind of moment soap operas live for. Lucas is spared, yes, but only because Joe puts himself in the line of fire. That is not just heroism. That is the kind of sacrifice that changes everything. It is the kind of move that leaves Lucas staring at Joe like he has just seen him in a completely new light. And let me tell you, if Joe ends up bleeding out or rushed to the hospital in critical condition, the emotional fallout is going to be massive. Because Lucas is not just going to feel relieved that he survived. He is going to feel responsible. He is going to replay every second of that attack in his head. He is going to ask himself, what would have happened if Joe had not been there? What would have happened if Joe had not pulled the trigger? What would have happened if Joe had not taken that bullet meant for him? That kind of guilt can be powerful on General Hospital. And I think it becomes the first crack in the wall around Lucas's heart. Once Joe lands in the hospital, the entire energy of the story changes. PCPD is not going to just shrug and move on. No way. They are going to lock things down. They are going to keep watch. They are going to assume the assassin might come back to finish the job. And that means Joe is not only a wounded hero, he is also a living witness, a key figure in a dangerous investigation, and maybe the only person standing between Lucas and a second attempt on his life. But it doesn't stop there. Because the hospital is where the real emotional bombshell starts ticking. I can already picture Lucas sitting by Joe's bed, first out of gratitude, then out of worry, and then maybe, just maybe, out of something much deeper. At first, it is simple enough to explain. Joe saved his life. Lucas wants to check on him. Lucas feels obligated. Lucas feels shaken. Lucas feels like he needs to be near the man who stepped into danger for him. But soap chemistry is never simple. Not really. What starts as concern can turn into fascination. What starts as gratitude can become attraction. And what starts as one bedside visit can become a pattern, a routine, a secret little emotional orbit no one else fully sees. I think Lucas could begin noticing details about Joe that he did not have time to notice before. The expression in his eyes, the way he tries to stay strong even while injured, the quiet vulnerability under all that bravado, the fact that Joe risked everything without hesitation, that sort of thing gets under your skin. And then the unexpected truth comes out. Joe is gay too. Now that is the kind of reveal that can absolutely rewire Lucas's entire emotional landscape, because suddenly this is not just some handsome guy who saved him. This is someone who could actually understand him on a deeper level. Someone who is not just safe in the abstract, but emotionally available in a way Lucas may not have expected at all. That knowledge could hit Lucas like a jolt. A very personal one, a very hopeful one. And I think this is where the soap magic really starts to glow. Because once Lucas realizes Joe shares that part of himself, the connection between them stops being vague and starts being real. It becomes possible. It becomes visible. It becomes dangerous in a different way. Not dangerous like a gun in the dark, but dangerous like a feeling you were not prepared to catch. Could that be the secret the writers are really protecting here? Could all this hospital drama be leading to a slow burn romance that fans never saw coming? I think so. In fact, I think that might be exactly the point. The attack is the plot device, yes. But the heart of the story is the connection. The attack simply forces Lucas and Joe into the same room long enough for their true feelings to surface. And here is where things get even juicier. I would not be shocked if Joe has been quietly attracted to Lucas for some time already. That would make this even more layered. Joe protecting Lucas would not just be duty. It could be personal. Maybe Joe has been suppressing his feelings. Maybe he has been trying to stay professional. Maybe he has been telling himself this is not the moment. But then he takes a bullet for Lucas, and suddenly all of that restraint falls apart. Because how do you keep hiding what you feel after someone is holding your hand in a hospital room, watching over you like you are the only thing that matters? That is where the betrayal of old assumptions comes in. Not betrayal between Lucas and Joe, but betrayal of the idea that this was going to stay simple. It never was. The minute Joe gets shot, the entire emotional script gets rewritten. Lucas is no longer just the person being protected. He becomes the one who is needed. He becomes the one who can offer comfort, warmth, and maybe even a little hope while Joe recovers. And honestly, that reverse dynamic is delicious. Because now the man who was supposed to be the shield is lying in a hospital bed, and the man who is supposed to be the protected one is the person who has to step up emotionally. That kind of role reversal creates instant intimacy. It strips away the professional walls. It pushes both men into a space where honesty matters more than image. And on a show like General Hospital, that is usually where a love story begins. But there is still that assassin. That is the part I think could blow this story wide open. The mystery shooter is not just a random villain. This person is part of a bigger secret, a bigger betrayal, a bigger danger lurking underneath the surface. Someone wants Lucas silenced. Someone wants the whole Sidwell mess buried. Someone is willing to go to shocking lengths to keep the truth from being exposed. And while Joe and Lucas are caught in this emotional whirlwind, Dante and PCPD are going to be racing to uncover who is really behind the attack. That investigation matters. Because I do not think the danger is over once Joe ends up in the hospital. In fact, that may be exactly when it gets worse. A wounded Joe could become a liability, a target, or even a tempting piece on someone else's chessboard. And Lucas, by staying close to him, may end up putting himself right back in the crosshairs. So now we have romance, danger, mystery, and a secret that could reshape both of their lives. That is a classic soap cocktail, and it is served extra hot. If this does play out the way I think it might, Joe and Lucas could become one of those unexpected pairings that catches fire because the circumstances are so intense. Not because they were obvious from the start, not because anyone saw it coming, but because they are forced together by tragedy, by survival, and by the kind of emotional truth that cannot stay buried forever. And that is why I keep coming back to this idea. The real shock may not be the shooting itself. The real shock may be what happens afterward, when Lucas looks at Joe and realizes that the man who almost died for him is also the man who could very well steal his heart. So here's my question to you. Is this all leading to a brand new Port Charles romance? Or is there an even darker secret hiding behind the assassin's attack? And once the truth starts coming out, will Lucas and Joe grow closer? Or will the next betrayal rip them apart before they even get the chance? Because if you ask me, this story is only just beginning to be exposed.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.